Toph vs Zuko. Who wins between these two powerful benders if they were to face off in a full-scale battle? That's the battle I have for y'all today. Like, share, and subscribe, as always. Comment down below on any thoughts you'll have about this video. Now, before getting right into the video, let me just state that I'm only going to be using these two characters from the 3 seasons of Avatar: The Last Airbender on Nickelodeon, not Legend of Korra or anything else, just the 3 seasons. Now let's get into it by starting with their physical strength. I'll be completely honest, naturally you kind of want to lean towards Zuko being the physically superior one, given that he is a trained fighter, but if you are being completely honest, given that Toph is simply an earthbender, and earthbenders seem to have greater levels of physical strength than many other benders to do the many earth-bending things they're capable of doing, I kind of want to lean towards Toph being physically superior. Plus we have seen a couple of physical strength feats from her that should of course display that she is quite physically strong. But then when it comes to speed, combat skill, agility, and durability, I'll easily lean towards Zuko for all of those aspects. Yes, Toph can keep up with Zuko's levels of speed, that is an obvious fact, but he is still quite fast, quite agile, a way better fighter than Toph, given that he is a firebender, and firebenders are naturally trained in hand-to-hand combat to assist with their firebending, whereas Toph had no actual hand-to-hand combat training, and obviously he's tanked a variety of different attacks, and Toph hasn't actually tanked that many attacks, if you're being completely honest. I mean, she's tanked a few, but not that many, and definitely not the same amount as Zuko. So in terms of speed, agility, durability, and combat skills, I'll easily lean towards Zuko in all of those aspects. But then you have to start talking about power. Now, power is a very interesting and complicating factor to consider, because both these characters are insanely powerful, having a variety of different ways of attacking. Zuko was trained by an arrow, and because of his training, he was able to defeat generals at a very, very young age. He's able to attack in a variety of different ways. He's one of the most powerful firebenders throughout the entirety of the series. But Toph, on the other hand, is a prodigy, and she has shown so many different earth-bending feats. I mean, she can attack in so many different ways using just basic earth-bending. She can attack in so many different ways, and she can defeat so many powerful characters, masters, as well as characters who are far more experienced than she is in actual combat and earth-bending, yet she's able to defeat majority of them. To top that off, she also has metal bending and sand bending. Yes, these elements need to be in the area of the battle to actually be of use, but nevertheless it doesn't mean that she has them to her advantage. She also has seismic sense, which is also quite a good asset for her, given that she can never be snuck up on. Her natural senses, as in her hearing, is also quite drastically enhanced, so she has many advantages and many different ways of attacking, and given that she's an earthbender, naturally she has more ways of attacking Zuko than Zuko has of attacking him. And to top that off, she also has more raw power than Zuko, given the fact that she's able to do insane feats like throwing around massive boulders, changing massive amounts of landscapes, and obviously lifting up or holding up the entire library for a decent bit of time while surrounded by sand, which at the time was her disadvantage, which is also an insane feat of power. Now, who do I actually think wins with this battle if these two powerful characters are to face off against one another? Well, this is a bit of an interesting one and kind of complicating, but I'd actually lean towards Toph being the victor in this battle. See, I do understand that Zuko is faster, more durable, a better martial artist, and obviously more agile than Toph, and all those assets assist him quite drastically in the battle. His agility and speed would allow him to evade Toph a majority of the time during the battle, allowing him to protect himself from many of the different attacks that Toph might direct at him. And then if he was to close the gap between himself and Toph and come into close quarters, then he has the massive advantage at that specific point in time, given Toph's lack of combat training, while Zuko has a lot of hand-to-hand combat training. But he's never really been shown to be capable of easily just doing this in the midst of battle. And to top that off, to do this whilst facing off against a highly skilled earthbender such as Toph is not an easy task to do, given that Toph would literally manipulate the ground that Zuko would be walking on or fighting on or standing on, and she would literally change it to do whatever she wants with it and give her the advantage in the battle, like she did here. And that naturally gives Toph the natural advantage. See, Zuko, though agile, is not as quick and as agile as someone like Azula. Azula was someone who was so fast and agile, Aang was struggling to actually keep up with her levels of speed and agility. Aang was always shown to be able to keep up with Zuko's levels of speed and agility. Actually, he was faster than Zuko in terms of speed and agility for majority of the time throughout the entire series, yet he struggles to keep up with Azula's levels of speed and agility. So I think Toph can keep up with Zuko's speed, and he definitely doesn't have the same amount of agility as Azula that would allow him to evade the majority of Toph's attacks. I mean, he can still evade them, but not at the same caliber as Azula. He can obviously also keep himself off the ground to assist him and prevent Toph from actually acknowledging where he is. Toph can put up a barrier or a dust cloud, ways to avoid him from seeing her as well, and ways to avoid him from actually taking her down. And the moment he comes back onto the ground, Toph strikes him or manipulates the ground he's walking on to actually take him down. See, it is obviously a complicating one because Zuko is still quite fast and agile, and he obviously is a good fighter. He goes for the legs even too, which makes it even more complicating. And in general, it will be hard for Toph to actually land a blow on Zuko. It will be hard for her to properly stop Zuko. But given the fact that Zuko only ever used his fire jets during Sultan's comment and never before that or after that, based on what we've seen, and the fact that he's not as fast or as agile as Azula, and his fighting style definitely does not allow him to be as fast and as agile as Azula, because it needs him to be rooted and stable onto the ground. That is his actual fighting style taught to him by Iroh, which naturally gives Toph the advantage in the battle immediately, because it means he is on the ground most of the time, meaning Toph has the natural advantage, and Toph still has a much larger arsenal than Zuko and can most definitely keep up with his levels of speed and agility. Given that, I want to lean towards Toph winning this battle really slightly. Now, I know many people are going to have a lot of comments and thoughts about this. It's completely understandable. If you'll do, please leave them down below. I'd love to see them. This is MC Info, another MC Clash. I'm out.